Hey you guys, hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Plot Twist podcast. My name is Catherine, and I am coming to you from Berlin, Germany, which is where I grew up and where I now live with my husband and our 3 kids. This is a slow fashion podcast focusing primarily on knitting. You can find me on Instagram as Katharina Knits and on Ravelry as Frau Christ, and I'm not going to spell it out for you, don't you worry. I'm going to link all of those things that I talk about, including, of course, the Instagram and Ravelry pages down below in the description box for you. So if there is anything that you want to look up, just head on down and you can find everything there. Yes, right. Today I am drinking, can you see this? Out of my, what are they called? Monty Potts cups. Green tea today, no black tea for me today because I have to go easy on my stomach. And so, see, it's already chipped a little bit, unfortunately, even though I haven't even had it for a year. It was a birthday gift last year. Can you see how it's speckled a little bit? I need to hide behind the pot, maybe. Anyway, so this is one of the Monty Pots that I have. They are being sold in Molly's shop, Molly of a Homespun House. And I got one of those pots from her when I ordered a box of Hugo. Must have been like almost 2 years ago. And I got this for my birthday last year because I think it looked really, really, really nice. And with the speckles, I thought it was a nice kind of yarny cup without being too obviously about yarn, if that makes any sense at all. I'm sorry for the following today because I had to make it so that I can see myself up on our television, which is up there. So whenever I look up, it's because I'm checking whether or not something is actually visible for you, whether you can really see what I'm holding up to the camera. And I know this looks weird and it's not a good solution, but it's the only solution that I could come up with today. For a host of like technical reasons that I'm not going to bore you with, but I wanted to podcast on the last weekend. Today is September 8th. I wanted to podcast on the weekend, and that didn't work out because it was a super busy weekend, and I'm not complaining because it was all fun. But yeah, so that didn't work out, and I the only way that I can manage and film during the week is this way. This is going to change in the near future, I hope, but for now that's what it is, and you're just going to have to bear with me here for a few more weeks. But I did want to wait until the weekend because there's many things going on then too, so I don't know if I would really have been able to podcast, and also I want to have the video up by then because I'm behind my self-proclaimed schedule of 2 weeks already, and I don't like that. So not because I have to be on schedule, but just because 2 weeks is an okay period of time. More than 2 weeks is feels kind of long to me. For me it's all about getting into the rhythm with podcasting, because episode 4, I mean, I still have to get the hang of things, and that is kind of part of it for me, finding a good rhythm in our family life that makes for regular podcast episodes. That's kind of where I want to go. So, okay. Sorry, boring. Okay, so let's jump right into finished objects. And boy, do I have a finished object to show you guys. It's right there. Can you see it? Ha! It's hiding on the sofa, and it looks like this. It's this big. Ta-da! You can see, oh, perfect. You can see that I went along and did the entire I-cord bind off. You can see it piling up here. Isn't that beautiful? Oh man. I can tell you it was a bit of a labor of love putting an I-cord bind off on on this massive massive blanket, which I'm going to show you in a second, but it's well worth it. I wanted this to be a little, I want to say polished, but that sounds even a little too fancy. It's not like I put a picot edging on it or something like that. It's just a plain old I-cord, but I wanted it to be finished in some way, right? To obviously not be a work in progress anymore, but to be a finished object, a finished blanket on the couch here, you know, not only as something that the kids are not really supposed to touch because there might be needles in there, but really as something that everybody is allowed to snuggle up in, to use as the blanket that it is, that it always wanted to become. And now that fall is rolling around, finally, yay! I have to say I'm here for it because it was unbearably hot and just right before fall temperatures. So yes, that feels right that it cools down now. But so now I wanted this to be ready, and it is ready, and it has been ready for a while. So I would really have loved to have podcasted last weekend, because I was even done with the I-cord. Isn't that amazing? I was really amazed with myself. And I have to say, when I picked up the stitches along the edges, I think I posted on Instagram, it's a good amount. It was over 1,600 stitches, I think it must have been, something like that. Not that I counted, I did the math before. But so there was a set of needles in each on each edge, and on the last one I ran out a little bit because I only had a needle that was that had a smaller cord, and so I used DPNs, double pointed needles, and that well, it works, but it's not the ideal solution, as you can imagine. So I should have, in hindsight, started with the DPNs, so that those would have been the first ones to vanish, you know, when I knit the first kind of half or the first squares, when I knit oh man, so that when I knit the I-cord on the first squares, those double pointed needles would have been the first to go. That's what I wanted to say. But no, those were the ones to linger at the end. And so when one needle cleared, I tried to pick up those stitches there, and that was a really good idea because they did not want to remain on those 3 DPNs. Let me just put it that way. And then I still had such a kind of, it looked like a nest really, because like it's a perfect square, right? My blanket, and I had needles, mostly not DPNs, but with cords going all the way around the edge, and I had it all scrunched up immensely, so it looked kind of like a nest because it pulled up. It was like much fatter at the bottom and it pulled up, right? And I had to just get cracking because the only place that I could really leave it was the couch. And it's not a good idea with 3 little ones to leave a project with that many stitches just right on the couch. And so I thought, okay, I have to use every spare moment that I have and just knit away on that I-cord. And it went surprisingly fast. I mean, it's a good amount of hours that went in there, but not as many as I initially thought. Because when I said last time around, I think it will take me a week to knit the entire I-cord, I wasn't joking. That was really my estimate. But I think it took me about, would have been smart to have tracked that somehow. I think 2 or 3 days. So I thought that was really good. So yay for me for having that off my needles. So, and now I'm going to tell you about the blanket as such. Before I show it, I'm going to leave it as it is so I can hold it up better. So these are the individual squares. They're squares. I'm going to make it so that you can see me talking. Some people read lips, right? Each square is, I picked up 34 stitches for each square on a 2.5 millimeter needle. I'm sorry, I don't know what this is in US needle sizes. One for the corner, and then 34 again, so that I would have 34, one stitch 34, and then I just knit the square and then the same all over again, right? Oh yes, that's what I wanted to say. I initially did not weave in the ends as I went, and then I fixed that and started weaving in the ends as I went. And I have to tell you, and this is really a public service announcement, if you knit a blanket and you weave the ends in as you go, you can finish your blanket and it's done. You don't have to do anything. And that is exactly what happened. I just trimmed the ends so that I can show you better and it's not such a mess. Because what I'm going to do, and I'm going to tell you in a second how I wove in the ends, or I'm at least going to try and explain that. What's going to happen now is that I want to give this a soak, just because it's been lying around for so long, and I want this entire, parts of it I think have been washed before, but I want for all of those stitches to just relax, and then it's really finished, you know what I mean? If this has been soaked once, and I have to do it in the bathtub because it's so big, but that's not an issue. So yeah, and I'm going to snip the ends off only after I've done that. So now I have to take this all apart so I can show you. So see, this is all the ends dangling here, and I'm going to give this a soak, and then after it's dry, it's then that I'm going to snip off the ends. That's what I always do. I weave in the ends, then soak it, let it dry, let it, take its time, and then the ends get snipped off, because then I can be sure that when I wash the thing again, especially like with this sweater, it would be annoying, they don't come poking out on the outside when I've snipped them off too tightly. You know what I mean? So that's always what I do. I'm gonna find a spot where I can really show you what I did to weave in the ends. I need a place with high contrast in colors so that you can really see what I did. Hold on a second. So maybe this, maybe you can see here, right? Do you see this? How? Focus. Right? So here you can see, and I'm gonna cover my mouse now because with the blanket on the screen, because otherwise I don't think it's going to focus enough. Okay, here. So oops. So what I did was, when I picked up stitches for from this square to knit this square. Sorry, it's weird doing everything seeing myself on screen and then explaining. I would have woven in this neon thread as I picked up the stitches. So this is not working, I'm sorry. This is such a weird setup. I'm not used to it at all. I mean, not that I'm used to anything when it comes to podcasting, but you know what I mean. So when this neon square had been knit when I knitted that one, right? Obviously, because it's in the row below. So I needed to pick up stitches on this selvage edge. So I did it from the right side, but you obviously can see the ends on the inside. So I would have picked up my green working yarn and also the little, I don't know, 20 centimeters or something of yarn that I left dangling on this stitch when I finished it and just pulled the yarn through the last stitch, right? So I picked up both of those, would leave the working yarn on my finger, and then on the left side I would leave that on the same finger the yarn that had to be woven in. And so whenever I inserted my needle here in the selvage edge to pick up the stitch, I would first go either over the old yarn, the one to be woven in, or under. Once I would go over it, pick up my working yarn, and pull it through this tiny loop that I had, or the tiny hole that I had created with my needle. Then I created one stitch, would go in the next, and then go under, and then in the next over, and then in the next under, right? So that it would have woven itself across this pickup line. And this is exactly what you can see here. This is the line, right? With the neon color going over, under, over, under. See? I hope this makes sense. And that was such a cool method. And I would do this until I hit the corner. Do this weaving in thing on the corner stitch, and then I wouldn't do it to go up here. You could definitely, but I didn't want this color on this side. Not that it matters, not that anyone would have a heart attack, but I just didn't want that. I just stopped here. And then knit up, knit up, knit up, knit all the way back. And when I started my first round on this green square, where I would do my first decrease, I would carry the tail of the green yarn that I had left dangling for a cast on, and do the same with that, and weave it also in, like to have both of these ends woven in, the one from the square below and the one from cast on from the green one that I was just in the process of working, right? I hope this makes sense to you, because this method is really cool. Maybe one day when I'm, more fancy with my podcast, I'm gonna make a tutorial for this. This is something I would like to do, but give me time for that. Maybe it makes sense to you like I explained it. And then when I picked up for the I-cord edge, because the thing is with the I-cord, you cannot immediately knit the I-cord. You have to go all the way around the blanket or whatever it is that you want to put an I-cord edging on, pick up all of those stitches, and then in the second round you knit the actual I-cord, right? Which is why I created this nest, so that all those stitches scrunched up, so otherwise there wouldn't have been a problem really. So, but this is what you do. And when I picked up for this I-cord edge, I did exactly the same on the other side. With every stitch that I picked up, I wove in the yarn from the respective square that I was knitting at the moment, right? That I was picking up stitches from. So you can see that. Maybe you can see that. I'm just going to show you the edge a little bit on camera, and then maybe you can see. And these are, so when I was finished with this one square with weaving in the ends, while picking up the I-cord, I left it dangling here, picked up the next color, moved on to here, left it, and so on and so forth. So now then all of those are secured enough. That's going to, that there's not going to be an issue. Okay. Can you see this, how they are woven in? I hope you can see this. And now I'm going to show you the actual blanket, which is kind of impossible because it's so big. So I'm going to have to scooch back. This is is it? Hold on. This may have been the very last square that I did. Oh man, I wanted to remember which one it was. It was definitely one of the last ones, with a very flashy mini from last year's Homespun House advent calendar. So that was definitely one of the last, if not the last. Anyway, so I'm just gonna hold it up and maneuver it around a little bit so you can see the entire blanket, or maybe not the entire thing, but all the colors. I'm gonna try. Okay, here we go. So much fabric. And that corner. So it's a huge thing. It's a massive blanket at least for my taste. There you go. Not for my taste per se. I like bigger blankets, but I've never knit a blanket as big as this one. Let's put it that way. And now let me see if I can find out the last square that I did. Oh man, that's annoying because I was really sure it was that one. It would definitely have been in a corner. Yeah, it's the one that I thought. That's it. That's the one. That's the last one that I did. And I had 11 to go, and I thought it was going to take me forever, but it didn't. Maybe because it was the finishing line. And you knit, 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 and all of a sudden it's only 3 more to go. And I had 3 edges all, 3 corners all squared off. And then it's just 1 more corner, and that kind of gives you the nudge to really get going and finish that thing, right? And I'm very happy that this is actually done now. And I'm going to fold it back up, put it there, so it can remain with us for the remainder of the video. I have to say, a word on Scrappy projects. They're so fun. I love sweater knitting. I would say I'm a sweater knitter. Several times a year I get on a sock knitting kick for some reason, because I don't necessarily keep them for myself, but I knit socks, right? So I have that sock knitter in me too. Sometimes the shawl knitter comes out, but less and less and less. And so on, right? And I love all these projects, but and I think if I didn't always have a sweater on the go, it wouldn't be like, it wouldn't feel right. But Scrappy projects might be my favorites, really. It gives me such satisfaction to create something beautiful with those leftovers, with those things that you like don't really know what to do with. And others are like, oh, I have all these leftovers, so I kind of wanted to throw them away. I'm like, oh my God, no. This is I knit on this for 4.5 years. This is a 4.5-year project. And see how big, like how many sweaters are in there. Oh man, I wanted to weigh it. I didn't. I'm still gonna do that and put it on my Ravelry page, or if I remember, I'm gonna tell you next week. Yeah, I wanted to see how heavy this actually is, because I'm assuming it's several sweaters in here. It's obviously several sweaters in here. I would like to know like how many approximately. And all of these ends can create those leftovers that you have from various projects. Or my mother-in-law gave me a bunch that she didn't know what to do with and stuff. Like I started collecting people's leftovers, not excessively, but to a certain extent, and knit them in there. And the ones that I really didn't want or didn't know what to do with, or sometimes the yarn doesn't feel right, sometimes you don't like it for some reason, I gave to our kindergarten, because they always have like one drawer for yarn, and then they're going to play with that or do whatever it is that they do with it, but they can always use yarn. So all the things that I really didn't want to keep, I gave to them every once in a while. But isn't it amazing how with leftovers you can create something as, well, beautiful, if that's your color palette, or it might be a completely different color palette that you have left over from your works in project, but progress. Why do I always say works in project? From your works, from your whips. And then that's your thing, right? So it doesn't matter that these are the colors, like they can be entirely different, but isn't it amazing what you can do with the things that you've just lying around? And like, to me, this blanket is a bit of a metaphor. Like, in like, how can I put this? In the limitation of the scrappiness, kind of, because they have different, they're of a different size, kind of a different weight. So sometimes you have a scrap that's only like 4 grams. Then you have some that are 30, and so on. And so my squares use, oh my God. And so my squares used up 9 grams each. Sometimes I would have to combine 2 or even 3 to make a square. Sometimes I had one leftover ball of yarn that I could use for 3 squares, and I didn't mind repetition in the blanket. There isn't too much repetition, but I I certainly did not go for it. Every square has to have its own color. Which, yes, if you want to do that, totally do it. But I just didn't care. And in the limitation of the leftovers, because they are what they are, right? You cannot buy more necessarily. That's where the creativity lies. Like, there's always creativity in limitation. Not so much, I think, in abundance, but in limitation. That's when we have to get creative. And when we have, say, a pile of yarn in front of us, that's when we have to be creative in, like, what do I do with that? That is fun to me to work on, that is functional if I want something functional like I did, that is turns into something useful, beautiful, etc., 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 or fills a gap in our household, something that we need. We could need a blanket, so I made it work. And it's not it's not rocket science, but it wouldn't have been that enjoyable, is what I'm saying, had I bought a whole bunch of new yarn. Like, had I had say 5 or 10 new skeins lying there, because I don't know how heavy this is, say 5 to 10 skeins of fingering weight yarn just waiting to be knit into the blanket, I don't think it would have been this fun to me. Right? Because the challenge was in the collecting of the scraps, making them fit together, accepting their difference in quality sometimes, because some of this is commercial, much of it is hand dyed. Collecting also, like, a little bit people in here, because I can still remember who gave me the different the different scraps, and so I collected, like, memories of people in here and of events, and I can still remember, like, oh, this is Scrappy sock yarn that I had from my mother-in-law, that I knit a pair out of shorty socks for my friend for Christmas, and then put it in here, the leftovers that I still had, and so on and so forth. I think you know what I'm getting at. And I think there are many instances in life where this applies. We are so trained to, like, when we're out of something, to run and buy new. So we're really trained on consumption, right? Rather than taking inventory, thinking about what is it that we really want and need, what brings us joy. That's a question that is not often asked. And then make a creative decision. And creativity takes a few days, right? It takes a few days to just look at the yarn and think, like, okay, so what could it be? What feels right? Sometimes, you know that, right? When you have your yarn and you want to knit that, say, sweater with it, and it just doesn't feel right. So you need to give it a little time, and then the right idea will come, and then it will be perfect. And I think that's what happened with this blanket too, that in the limitation of the scraps and the leftovers and just the state that they came in, that's where my creativity came from. I hope that makes sense to you, because you can really apply it to so many areas of your life, right? You don't always have to run and buy new immediately, because often we have what we need, or we have what brings us joy. We just need to look at it differently, or we need to repurpose it, or we need to just think about it for a second, and or talk about it to someone, or and relax into the situation of, like, I don't know yet, and it's okay, and I'm going to find a good solution. Like, I'm going to have a good idea, right? Trust in your self-sufficiency. Like, I am going to make a good decision about this. And if after a few days or weeks your decision is none of it feels right, I'm going to give all of those scraps to our kindergarten, and that's going to be the end of that story. Okay, that's a decision too, right? So I'm just saying, I love Scrappy blankets or Scrappy projects for that, for the lesson that they teach me in relax. You have what you need. Usually you have what you need. You usually have those things that bring you joy. You don't need to run and buy everything. The real fun stuff, most likely it's in your life already. Okay, so relax for 10 seconds. take stock, take inventory, breathe, drink a cup of tea, and then let's move on from there, right? So that's the story of that blanket. Oh man, it gives me such satisfaction to have it sitting here almost finished. Almost finished. It's finished, but when it's, I need to graft the I-cord edges together, like where I started and where I ended, but that's a 2-minute affair. And then I need to soak it, and then it's going to be all nice and neat. And, I mean, what do you do when you finish a blanket? Because I thought, I have 3 little children. Now, they're not that old. My oldest is 7. My youngest is 1, so. But this took me 4.5 years. So I've been working on this 4.5 years, like on and off. I used to get in the kick of, like, I want to work on this blanket, and then, do you say that? I used to go on a blanket knitting kick. Maybe that's how you put it. And then it would lie around for a few months. And that's okay, because it was so comforting that this knit was just kind of there for me. Like when I needed it, I could pick it up, and I didn't have to, right? Whenever it felt right. So that was important to me, that it was not, I didn't knit it with a deadline, but I knit it when I wanted to knit on it. And now that this is off the needles, I realize I need another one of those projects. And when my kids are older, oh God, I hope the day never comes that when they want to leave the house and go out into the world on their own, I think it would be fun for them to have the option, not the obligation, but the option to take one of the blankets that we had on our couch as a family and take it with them if they want to. Because my husband and I were not going to need blankets for 5 people when everybody's out of the house, right? So I thought, okay, I had better cast on the next blanket. Well, because this one has brought me so much joy that I just want to knit. I want another blanket in my life to knit on, to just sit there and wait for me for whenever I crave it. And also I thought, if this is kind of the time frame that I have to have in mind, like 4 to 5 years for a blanket that size, I had better get going, because eventually we're going to need those blankets, right? And so I already knew the next one that I wanted to knit. I had seen it on Chelsea's Patreon channel, because she started when I thought, oh, this is perfect. This is just the blanket that I want to cast on next as well. The one that I've been secretly searching for in my mind when I wondered what could be the next one. Chelsea of Legacy Fiber Arts, if you don't know who I'm talking about. I'm going to leave her Patreon down below. I hope I remember to do that. So I immediately, when I finished this, immediately, like a crazy woman, bought and printed out the following pattern: the Jelly Roll blanket by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. And what happens here is you knit one of those strips to the length that you want it to be, and then so that you want your entire blanket to be. You determine how long it's supposed to be at the end, and then you knit the second strip. You can make them as wide or narrow as you want to, and you patchwork them together and create a kind of a ridge where they are connected, which you probably cannot see as well on this little picture. I'm going to hold it up again. See? Maybe now you could see a bit better. And yeah, so that's what I did. I wanted to make one of those, and I thought this is actually also a really perfect Scrappy project, because it allows you to use up all of your scraps in one go. Where with the Cozy Memories blanket, the limitation always was my 9 grams. Like I always needed 9 grams of one color, and sometimes I didn't want to like use up 3 or 4 scraps together. Sometimes I did, and interestingly, you can't even tell often enough. You can't even tell that I like mashed all those together. So it's, oh God, these projects are fun for the color play alone. The colors, I mean, for me, the colors are always among the, like, not the best thing about knitting, but one of the best things about knitting. This color therapy, I really feel that concept. But what was I saying? Anyways, I picked out all kinds of scraps, and it felt so good that I knew when I knit them into one long strip, all of those are going to be used up. No leftovers from the leftovers, right? And that felt really good. Like, I thought, okay, perfect. This is exactly what I want now. Like, while I enjoyed the 9 grams thing that I could play with on the Cozy Memories, here I just want to let go of some of those scraps and the leftovers that I've carried around for apparently something in the neighborhood of 4.5 years now. Okay, so I wanted to get going immediately. And hold on. Started one of those strips, and I decided to kind of go by color, because I thought, okay, this is going to be very busy if I have some very small scraps, some larger ones, and I'm just going to use them up, as I go, all of them. So some are going to be like really small stripes, and some are to be really big blocks. And then I thought, okay, what do I do to not have the blanket in the end be all that much of a headache? So very busy, which there is nothing to be said about a busy blanket. That's if anything, that's the place where you can go really wild, but it's not what I wanted. I wanted to give it some sort of, I hesitate to say structure, but like, I wanted to have some sort of a rule or something to apply when it comes to where to put the next, which color to choose next, right? And I thought it might be fun. I'm just going to try and see how it goes to sort of divide the stripes by color. And that is to say, to divide them very loosely. So the first one is going to be, I'm going to show you, all like blues and greens. Let's see. That's, maybe I have to show you this way. Woo. That's what I've knit up so far. I just went with 30 stitches on a 2.5 millimeter needle. So slightly smaller than the squares on the Cozy Memories. And that's what I came up with so far. The color representation is not as good. But so I started with a beautiful dark blue that I have left from, oh man, you really cannot see anything here because it's too dark, but it's a dark blue, like a navy blue, with hints of purple in it. That's really cool. It looks really beautiful. I wish I had more of that for a sweater, I have to say. But it was a color from, man, it looks black on screen. How is that? It really isn't black. But I had that from the, what was it? It must have been the 2019 advent calendar from Christy and Tristan, Dragon Horde Yarn and Yarn Cafe Creations, and they do the Harry Potter ones. And this was a birthday gift in that year for me that I got. I think it must have been book 3. No, it was book 3, but I think it must have been 2019. That's what I want to say. Or maybe it was even 2018, but I don't think so. And then what I do, where's a good place to show you? To connect, like, because again, I want 0 ends to have to be woven in at the end. That was such a good experience with the Cozy Memories that there were no ends whatsoever to be woven in, that this is exactly the experience that I want with this one. And so it's a favor to myself in like 4.5 years time, I assume. And what I do is I knit, oh man, I don't find a place where you can really, oh yeah, maybe here. Oh, this is where I messed up a bit. Here. So when I see that one color runs out, it is about to run out, and then I take the new color and I knit those two strands together. Like I hold them double for, I don't know, 10 stitches maybe, 8 to 15. Let's put it that way, 8 to 15 stitches or whatever seems reasonable to you. I'm going to show you. This is where I did that. See? Now it's focusing. Can you see how I did that here and both down there? Both here and down there. That's how you say it. So, but you know what I mean. So I hold two strands together, knit a few stitches with them together, and then I drop the one that is finished and knit only with the new yarn, and then they're attached. It will hold. It's not going to break. And that's that. And nobody cares. I wouldn't do it on a sweater, but here it's a blanket. It's a scrappy blanket. Like, it's busy to begin with. Nobody will notice. Or if they do, they're going to be like, oh, that's smart. But, you know, nobody will say, I don't like how this is, like how there's this extra kind of little ridge and it doesn't go all the way through because I change colors mid-row anyways. And it's a garter, so it's garter stitch, right? So you knit every row. And so depending on which side you're gonna insert the new color on, there's going to be a ridge anyways. So yeah, that's my blue strip. You can see how there's also greens in there. And well, it looks a little weird on camera now, and it's not that long. It's only this small, but it will grow a little longer, and I'm excited to put a second strip next to it. And I was wondering, like, what colors do I have? What would be my next colors that I knit up? And I think I might go with pink next, and then I have enough yarn, I think, to have like a gray strip. Interestingly, I might have enough yarn to do an orange strip, even though orange is really not a color that you find in my wardrobe at all. But I think I could have, because they were included in some advent calendars and I never know what to do with them, so that might be a good thing to do with them. Then what else? Well, I kind of put the teal in there. Otherwise, that would have been a candidate. But the nice thing, the beauty about projects like these is I use up what I have now. And I may decide to do one strip sometime down the road that is completely like all the colors of the rainbow, right? Just what I want. Because, I mean, I can do whatever I want with that blanket. If it doesn't turn out with the individual colors for those strips, then so be it. I mean, who cares, right? I can still like decide to do something like to go in a different direction with that blanket. But in my mind, it's a neat idea, kind of, and I like the idea of that. Not too strict kind of a limitation, but still some sort of idea behind collecting the individual colors together. And I'm really looking forward. Like, I think that's also what makes it so much fun to me to think about it, is that, again, the play with color. So the joy of putting together, I wanted to say the challenge, but it's really just the joy of putting together those individual colors for the individual strips that you're gonna patchwork knit together. Man, that is so fun. That is so fun to me. playing with those colors. I think color is something we really need more in our life, because in our lives, because colors can make us so happy. And having that sort of area for play with color, we should have many more of those areas in our lives, but that already gives me so much joy and the opportunity to play, right? Which we deprive ourselves of as adults often, but we need it. And that is a good outlet, I feel like. I'm just quickly going to show you the next colors that I'm going to put in there. So here I have a teeny tiny scrap of Debbie's yarn that Debbie of, not a homespun house, sorry Debbie, the Loving Path, that I used for my second Mossabra hat. Was it the first? No, hold on, it was the first, and now I can't remember the name of that colorway, but it's so pretty because it has, man, oh Debbie, I'm sorry, I don't remember, but see how it has this little pink, these pink specks in there. It's blurry now, but, and then there's going to be another teal color going to go in there. Oh man, again, it's pretty dark on the screen. It's the lighter, brighter teal color that I have that I was gifted by my friend Claire in one of the advent calendars. I don't remember if I think it was last year, and I used it for something, but I have leftover. And this, I don't know that all of this is going to go in there. This is a sparkly blue. Can you see that? A sparkly sort of navy blue, a silver stellina. This is Frida Fuchs, so a Berlin hand dyer team. The colorway is Wacholder, and this is, I don't know how they call their glitzy or silver stellina base. Lametta, I think they call it Lametta. Anyway, that's them. I'm going to put that in the description box if you want to look that up for some reason. And oh, there's more. I have another one of those small blue ones, and then I have Schoppel Zauberball, Zauberball with greens and blues. So I think I'm going to put some of this in, and then I will have reached a decent amount of length, and I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to quickly show you my second work in progress. Not that I have any desire right now to really knit on socks. I don't know why that is. It will come back. It always does, so I don't worry about it at all. About my sock knitting mojo hiding in some corner. Since the blanket was so big, when I last knit on it, I couldn't obviously take it anywhere, so I left it at home. It was only my couch project, and so this is the project bag that always hangs in my kitchen, and because you never know when you get a minute to knit in the kitchen, right? And it has its kind of little place there. And also when we go on car rides, which we hardly ever do, but whenever I find myself sitting in the car for more than 5 minutes, that's what I take with me. Portable, mindless little project. Mindless because I know the pattern by heart now. These are the beautiful Rainbow Connection socks. By Kay Litton, Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady. I've shown them before. See, that's how far I am. I knit, like, I want to say this section since we last spoke, so not a ton, but it did make a tiny bit of progress. And I like how I love the yarn. This red right here is so beautiful to me. Like, it's so rich. again, a berry color, right? And then it goes into this blue section, but I think it will come back to this richer berry red tone. And I can show you this. I don't think that I did last time around. This is also a Schoppel Zauberball, Crazy Zauberball. So there is a tiny little bit of orange in there, but just ever so slightly. And then there are these well, they don't really look like it now on camera, but there's light blue in there and really rich purple. It's really, really beautiful. And I don't know that I have, oh yes, I do have the tag in here. I can tell you exactly the color that is. It's color number 2231, Buntmetall. So I'm going to put that down below as well. So if you want to check it out, do go and check it out. It's beautiful. And a Zauberball is really a fun thing to have. Right. Okay. Today I can actually tell you something about what I'm wearing. Because the weather, as I said, has cooled down a little bit. Enough so that I can wear something hand-knit. Isn't that great? And I have, so hold on. I'm going to start at the beginning. This is the Cristallo tee by Knitting for Breakfast. I think they're an Italian designer duo. Maybe it's just one person, but I always think it's two people. Maybe that's stupid. Maybe it's just one. And anyway, Cristallo is what it's called. I'm going to leave that down below. I'll put it on the screen. And yeah, and that's that. I knit a size medium, so there's only 3 sizes in there, I think, S, M, and L. I knit the medium in rerum natura Penelopé yarn, and that is 90% wool, 10% silk. And I went looking for that yarn or for yarn suitable for that project, because I'm always very much on the fence about knitting a t-shirt, because this is a short sleeve, right? Knitting a short sleeve garment with wool, because I feel like either it's wool and long arms, long sleeves, or it's some other material and short sleeves. Not everybody is that way. I see plenty of people knitting t-shirts and wool, sometimes even non-superwash, which like tends to be even warmer. If it works for you, perfect. It's not worked for me so far, so I wanted to make a good decision for my personal climate. I wanted to just find the right yarn for that project, or maybe not knit it at all. But I really wanted to knit it because, because it's just, I find it so gorgeous. And I'm going to show you the garment entirely in a second. And I kept looking, and I didn't find what I wanted. And then rerum natura, they came out with their Penelopé yarn. And I thought, oh, perfect. This might be just the match that I'm looking for. And I have to tell you guys, it is. It was perfect. It is a joy to knit with. I've knit 2 of these. And I would immediately cast on a third in that yarn, because it is so amazing. I'm going to take any excuse to knit with that yarn again. rerum natura is always an excellent choice. I've always immensely enjoyed the yarn that I bought from them. So a huge recommendation from my part. Beautiful, beautiful. Always been an amazing experience to both knit and wear next to skin. I wear all of my rerum natura projects, and then later products next to skin. Gilead and Penelopé. So also a sweater, a non-superwash sweater, and it is smooth as silk. It is really beautiful to wear. To me, it's more comfortable than silk, because I don't really love that. But it's very, like, it doesn't scratch at all. Yeah. And I'm not sponsored. I'm just saying that because I'm very convinced. But so initially I bought this slightly pink yarn. It's a very light kind of ballerina pink, I feel like, and a teal, a greenish teal color for the body. And I knit myself another, like my first Cristallo tee. And then I had exactly enough for another yoke passage. So 3 balls of yarn, I think it was 3, gave me enough for 2 yokes. And then I think I had 20 gram, a 20 gram ball left over. And I don't know how much I used for the body. I forget now, but I'm going to link my Ravelry page or pages so that you can look it up if you want to. And I knit the body in first that tealy color, and then I wanted, you know, something else that would go well with the pink, and I love gray and pink together, and so I chose this gray color. I don't know how any of the, oh, yeah, this is maybe called Tutu. This could be right, but I don't know what the color names are for the other yarns. You can look it up on the Ravelry pages. I'm not going to stand up because there was a hiccup with the length. The first one I knit both of the shirts identically. So I knit exactly as many rows stockinette on the body part here as I did on the other, and yet this ended up shorter. So I'm going to stand up now so that you can see how it looks when I have it on. So this is what it is. Can you see that? So this is only, I felt this was too short. Because I have small kids, I lift them up the entire time, and I didn't want the shirt to be too short. Just so I felt more comfortable in it, and I felt that so that I would feel that it's more practical kind of for my everyday life. But a few days, so I never really wore the gray. The green or teal color one is, like I said, the same amount of rows, but it's a little bit longer. So I feel like it fits me better. And I used to always wear that. And I never really, I think I knit those last year, or last spring, and I mean spring 2021. So they're about 1.5 years old now. Or maybe this isn't, but the teal one is. But it could be like for about a year, I haven't really like worn this, even though it was finished. And a few days ago, I have a very minimal wardrobe. Maybe not when it comes to sweaters, but when it comes to everything else. And I did, all the shirts I wanted to wear were in the wash and not ready to wear yet. And so I thought, okay, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to put this on. At least it's going to get some wear, right? And I wore it now for like, I've worn it for 2 days, I think. And I loved the length. I thought it was nice that this was kind of what, how do you put this? Like, that there was a little bit of a difference between those 2 shirts, that they weren't exactly identical, like maybe a store-bought item would have been. Because it was, the situation was such that I had already thought, okay, so how can I fix this? If I put a needle in here and a needle a little further down, and then I cut it open and knit some extra rows, and then graft those 2 ends together, like those 2 edges or set of life stitches together with Kitchener stitch, might that be the solution to make the shirt a little bit longer? And then I thought, oh man, but that's such a pain, and is it really worth it? Is it so bad? And I never did it because I really didn't feel that at all. Like, I didn't think that was the solution I was looking for. And yet I was somewhat dissatisfied with the length. And then I thought, okay, I'm just going to wear it. And then I can determine like what I want to do with that. And I think the outcome is that it's just fine. It's just a little different than the other one, but so what? And it was not uncomfortable to wear. And I thought, so that's so interesting how I thought there was such a problem with that shirt when there is none at all. And I'm just going to leave it as it is and wear it and be happy with it. And yeah, I am very much in love with that shirt. I would highly recommend it per se, because I think it's such a beautiful yoke. And I like that this, what are these called? Is that chevron? Well, those little waves are repeated down here. I like that. very much. I think it's a beautiful pattern, and also like these little sleeves. I think it's also just so cute, and it's cute. It's not not cute per se, but it's elegant. It's beautiful, right? It's very pretty. And I have to say, I have never in my life gotten as many compliments on a hand knit as with these shirts. Complete strangers have come to me several times in the street. I really have to show you the green one because I love the colors together so much. Have come to me and said, have you knit this yourself? This is so beautiful. I just wanted to let you know, such an elegant t-shirt. And then they left. Like, they didn't want to start chatting, but they just wanted to say, by the way, your hand knit looks amazing. And I thought, oh, that's so cute. And it's happened repeatedly. Can you imagine? Like, I could not imagine. I thought this was so incredibly cute. And this design, I still find it really stunning. I think it's such a gorgeous design. And like always with lace, it's not so hard. It looks intricate and so on, blah, blah, blah. But it really, I've never found lace to be all that hard. Maybe I never did the really hard lace. That probably I didn't. But you just follow the chart and then you're done, right? It's beautiful. And it repeats itself, like it's a small repeat. It's really, I think, a gorgeous top. So, I did mend a little. Holes in t-shirts, holes in tights, you know, just your run-of-the-mill mend, right? And I just wanted to show one little project, not necessarily for the mend because I only had to mend the cuff, and it still looks sloppy, but it looked sloppy before because it's worn so much. This is a favorite, and I think it's just so cute, and I wanted to show it, of both my boys. The older one has worn it a ton, and then the smaller, so my middle child, is currently wearing it. He dresses up as a little police officer. Isn't that so cute? So, Polizei, that's police, right? Isn't that so cute? I found it on a flea market, and you can see how the tie has been mended before. Not expertly, like it's, see this? There's a little, hiccup in that tie. Because my older son, he with scissors, he snipped into it for some reason in kindergarten. It was a tiny little hole, but I mean, well, and I mended it, and it ended up looking like this. Well, that's just the way it is. Nobody cared. The kids didn't care at all. He was just happy that the hole was mended, because it was like one of his favorite shirts, right? And that always reminds me of like how cute it was when he was much smaller than he is today. Like 3 years ago, when he wore this, when the one that's so big now and in second grade, when he wore this little thing. And that's what I mean, mending. That's what I always say. Mending gives you all the stories, all the memories. Not only does it make for a slow fashion lifestyle and really vote against fast fashion, which is so harmful to both people and the climate. But it's, you get to remember those things. I would never have remembered otherwise, right? And now I always see him like, who is this little, I would remember it how he was so little compared to now, obviously, and in kindergarten, but like this this specific incident, and it's so cute to me still. And they see, so the hem is all frayed on both sides, that because I don't know what they do with the hem, but see how it's much wider than the actual arm, and there were like holes in there that I fixed, which is really not interesting at all, but I just wanted to show you that these are the little items I get to manage when I when I mend stuff. And this was on my pile last week, I think, and I did it. I just wanted to quickly show you because it's so cute, and I like preserving these things for the kids because they love them so, right? And they would be so bummed if they couldn't wear those shirts again, just because they have big holes in them too. So I enjoy seeing my kids getting attached to the items that they wear, because I think that's how it should be. You should not buy like new clothing every month or every other month and then just discard your old stuff, which isn't old, it's just not the newest, right? You should like choose some things that you really love and keep them, right? That's how we should go through life. Also with people, also with like our furniture and with the things that we use. What does it say if everything is always disposable, right? And we're not wired that way. We want connections. We want to have connections that last and that we can rely on, to people, right? To places maybe, but also to our stuff, which means we should not have too much stuff, because that can become overwhelming, and then we stop making these connections. But also to our clothing, and also in that respect, fast fashion is really harmful because it prevents us from connecting in that way, right? Okay, now books. I've talked about this before, so if you've been here from episode 1, this will not be a surprise to you, but see what came out. Ta-da! The Ink Black Heart, and I want to get it off my chest right away. I think, a non-native speaker that I am, but I really strongly believe that and I'm sorry, but this is just the quirky me that I am. I think that there should be a hyphen right here. I think it should be Ink hyphen Black Heart. Ink Black should be hyphenated, shouldn't it? It looks wrong. It looks wrong to me. I'm sorry, but that's the things that I think about and that bother me. Apparently there isn't a hyphen in Ink Black, but I just think there should be one. And I just wanted to get this off my chest for a second and say that, because every time I pick up the book, which hasn't been a ton because I've only just bought it, but I always feel like, shouldn't there be a hyphen in there? Yes, there should definitely be a hyphen in there. I have very strong feelings about hyphens and apostrophes, just so you know. Okay, just so you know. That's the sort of person that I am. I'm sorry to say. It's what it is. We all have to deal with that. But other than that, J.K. Rowling, who is disguised as Robert Galbraith, but not anymore because everybody knows that it's she, right? Has knocked out another, as you could see, strike novel. I've said before that I love these books a lot. They come out every other year now, it seems like. Always at the beginning of September, it seems like. That's as far as I can tell. And I can't wait, I can't wait. It's always such a fun read. It's always one of the most fun reads of those 2 years for me. And I know I'm a scholar, like I'm a literary scholar, so I studied literature, so literature, but this is a really fun read for me. Maybe because it's not academic and because it's none of those things that I went to college for and that I got my PhD in, but yeah, probably, I don't know. And also I've learned to allow myself to just not care, to just read what I want to read, and I do want to read that. And I'm only 90 pages in, so it's only come out, I've only read a few pages and it's 1,000, so 90 is not a lot, but I'm excited to see where it's going. I'm not sure this is yet my current obsession category. I don't feel that obsession yet, but I know it will come. Definitely when I'm halfway through and the entire thing picks up more speed. Because it's a long novel, you have to give it a few minutes, right? It will definitely get there, and I'm so over the moon that I'm holding this in my hands because it's out, because I've really been waiting for that moment. Obviously, I didn't manage to finish the one that I had started as kind of a gap filler before, the Cuckoo's Calling, so which is the first of that series. In episode 1, I mentioned that I wanted to reread it. I had started rereading it, but I didn't finish it. I'm gonna reread it after. One thing I said before, that I don't feel like these novels are stylistically all that much to write home about. Every once in a while there are passages where I feel like, ooh, couldn't someone have edited that? But okay, so what, right? I do have to say that I think J.K. Rowling has a thing with pop music references. Ever since what's it called, The Casual Vacancy, which was her first book post Harry Potter, and I don't know that it's in every one of these ones, but in many of her other the strike novels, she will every once in a while mention a pop song, but like a specific pop song by a specific artist, and then inevitably she's going to quote from that song. And I think it's supposed to be like this deep connection between the song that's quoted and the situation in which it is embedded, and so on and so forth. But I have to say, it has never really worked for me. Here there's a scene where they're at a New Year's Eve party and someone is dancing on the dance floor, kind of out of tune to the music that's playing, and she mentions the specific song to which that person is dancing weirdly, apparently, and I don't know why. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Why? Why not just say to a song that, but why the specific song? And then inevitably, a page later or half a page later, it's quoted. I'm like, oh, that's why. But it's such a generic quote that I feel like, why? Like, what does it add? To me, it doesn't really add that much. And yes, that's my taste, so maybe to other people that is the fun part, It's just, I never really get why she seems to be so keen on these pop musical references, because I could really do without them, I have to say. And that is kind of the only thing that I can say about the only, not bad necessarily, but like critical thing I can say about these books, because I really love them and enjoy them. And yes, they're not all that sophisticated, but they don't have to be, right? Nobody says they have to be. They're great fun, just as they are. So, who gives a damn? But yeah, I came across that and I thought, oh man, why is that? Like, why does she always do that? And what does it really add? Like, if she didn't do it, nothing, for my taste, nothing would be missing from the pieces. Even in The Casual Vacancy, very often she mentions like Jay-Z sings this song, blah, blah, blah. And then tons of the lyrics are quoted, and I never got why. Like, I never truly understood why. What does Jay-Z have to do with anything in that book? That is otherwise, like the Casual Vacancy, so well written. It's very different from anything that she's written before or after. Not that the others are not good, but it's a very different and specific style and tone, really. Like, the tone is so different. And yet she always does that with the music. And I find it slightly annoying, to be honest, because now I know that when I see that and when I read that, this blah, blah, blah's song such and such, I'm like, oh man, now it's just gonna quote it again. But yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, I am over the moon happy about this book being out. As for shows, shows, again, my voice breaks because the video is so long now. I have to stop. Every video gets longer and longer now, I feel like. Let me take a sip of my now cold tea. Yeah, my husband and I have been watching on Netflix God's Favorite Idiot. That's what it's called. So Melissa McCarthy's show that she's written with her husband, whose name, I'm sorry, I always forget. When I read it, I know it's him, but I don't remember his name otherwise. It doesn't matter. So she has a new show on Netflix, and it's very funny. It's very funny. It's very well written, and it's very well acted. Needless to say, and I have to. It's very original. Like it's a really good idea that they had, and that they found a way of like translating very, very nicely. Like it's a really good show, and such an interesting show, and convincing in its like how it's done, and beautiful. It's addictive in its own way, but it's so stupid to say that, but it really scared me. Like I'm easily scared. I really am. I am not a person for horror movies. Had I known how, like, what The Black Swan was actually about, I would never have watched the movie. Just put it that way. I'm glad I watched it. I'm definitely not going to watch it again. I'm very easily scared, to the point that I don't read or listen to Harry Potter audiobooks, or don't read Harry Potter when it's dark out. I just don't. Which is a bummer. And sometimes I do, and it never feels good. Like I really am easily scared by stories, and I don't know that I used to be, but well, anyway. So that's that. Satan comes in the form, makes an appearance in the form of a very like a sort of, I wanted to say witchy, a beautiful witchy sort of woman, but witchy is not the word at all. She's very uncanny, and she always pretends to be very, very nice, and is very cold, obviously, because it's Satan, and she always wants to lure people in. And I don't have to say anymore, because you know that. Even if you've not seen that, you know what I mean. So she scared me. And then there's this entire war going on in heaven, because Satan wants to take over, and God is getting weaker because the angels don't win the battles for her. She's a woman, an old woman, which is, I love that. An old lady, a little bit like the queen. And just a little bit like she reminded me of the queen in her ways a little bit, but anyway, and that entire setting, that scared me, because the two main characters, so Melissa McCarthy and her husband, play them. They could have been murdered like at any given moment, and it was kind of clear by Satan, right? And it was clear that was not going to happen, but because the show, but I felt uncomfortable watching it, let's put it that way. And my husband said, should we continue, or is this too much now at this late hour? And I said, no, let's finish it, because it makes me uncomfortable having this in my mind and not knowing how it works out in the end. And it's very much made so that you're going to have to watch the next season. And everything prepares for a continuation. It's not closed in any way. So I'm just going to have to live through that again. It sounds incredibly stupid, but it's what it is. I thought it was scary. There you go. And yeah, that's, I think, all that I want to say today, because it's now, we're almost at an hour and a half, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Again, I did not manage to squeeze in a little Q&A section, but that is not a problem. I am saving the questions that I had for next time, or maybe I'm going to do one Q&A video. That could also be an option if you want to add questions to that Q&A list. So if you have things you want to ask me, ask away in the comments, and I will just keep on collecting questions as they come in, and either answer some of them, little by little in the episodes, or maybe make a designated episode. That would also be an option for me. That sounds fun. So I could also do that. If there's anything you would like to know, just leave it down in the comments. I would very much appreciate that. If you felt like participating in that way, feel free. Don't have to by any means, but it sounds like fun, right? Otherwise, please feel free to like and subscribe below. Remember that all the show notes will be posted below this video in the info box. So that you can find all the things that I talked about there. I thank you for watching, for hanging in there with me to the end, because that's what you did if you're still here. Thank you for checking out this channel, and I hope you feel like coming back next time. So now it's the middle of the week, so when am I going to be back? Maybe in a week and a half? That will be fun, but don't quote me on it. Sometime in the neighborhood of in 2 weeks' time. So I'll record when it kind of fits our family schedule, and I hope it's not going to be too long, because it's fun talking to you guys. I'm very much looking forward to like any sort of comment that you feel like leaving down below. It doesn't have to be a question for the Q&A. People have left comments before, and every time I'm really excited about it. That you take the time out of your day to leave a little comment. It really means a lot to me. Like that's what this podcast is all about for me, to connect with other knitters and to start chatting with you guys. So and if you feel like don't feel pressured in any way, shape, or form. If you feel like supporting this podcast in some way, in some small way, I will link my Ko-fi page down below for you, and if you feel like it, you can head over there and get me a small cup of coffee, or I will always interpret it as a cup of black tea or even green tea for me, which I've set at €2. So if you feel like doing that at all, just know that this page is out there. If you don't want to do that, don't feel any sort of pressure. You are more than welcome to just come back and hang with me and just listen to me chatter on. And if that's all you want to do on this channel, you're more than welcome to do that. So, okay, I'm just excited for everyone that's here. Okay, let me wrap this up right here. Thanks for hanging out with me for another episode, and I hope to see you very soon. Okay, bye. Happy knitting. Bye, guys.